Our story begins in the middle of the night on a moonlit evening when the moon is in its full phase. A person appears running at a very high speed, carrying another person on his back who seems to be severely injured. As the scene zooms out slightly, it becomes clear that it is a group moving at incredible speed, as if trying to escape from enemies chasing them. The hero, who is carrying the injured on his shoulders, thinks that their enemies have become very close, prompting him to make a swift decision to protect the injured. The hero calls his companion Tugang, who quickly gathers the rest of the men. The hero heads to a tree to set the injured down to rest, then asks Tugang to take over guarding him, and confirms that the role of the rest will be to secure the path for Tugang until he can reach safety, while he will remain to confront the enemies. However, the men refuse to let the hero stay alone, and Tugang suggests that they all stay to face the enemies while the hero takes on the task of escaping with the injured. Nevertheless, the hero stands firm, asserting that they can lead the enemies for a long time by themselves, and orders them to move immediately. The men find themselves compelled to follow his orders and begin to leave. Before their departure, the hero advises them to protect the injured by any means, and to not stop no matter what happens. Translated by Nancy Kankar. Tugang gathers the injured on his back and urges his comrades to quickly execute the leader's instructions. Meanwhile, the hero remains in place, ready to face the enemies. Not much time passes before the enemy group arrives, and the leader is ambushed from afar by their movements as they surround him like monks or demons. The leader seems to think that the information about their path has undoubtedly leaked, possibly from a high-ranking official within their sect, as it would have been impossible for anyone else to know about Mr. Baikliu's secret mission, except for a few trusted leaders, and even they were unaware of the journey's details. Despite this secrecy, Taifa Sitan managed to intercept them on the way. The leader recalls the moment when the enemies suddenly surrounded them and threatened Mr. Baikliu, saying that his end had come and that they would capture him in this place. It becomes clear here that the injured person the hero was carrying is Baikliu, the leader of the sect to which the hero belongs, making it necessary to save him at all costs, even if it means putting themselves in danger. Subscribe to the channel. He realizes that the enemies were pinpointed to their exact location and the path they would take. After some deep thinking, the leader concludes that the Devil's sect had prior knowledge of their plans, leaving no other explanation than that the secret information about the mission and the method had indeed leaked from within their sect. The Devil's sect members begin to move around the leader at breakneck speed, making it impossible to see them clearly, but traces of their swift movements appear on the blood-red specters' faces. The leader stands to confront them and shouts at them that they will not pass this place except by his will. The sect members try to quickly rescue their comrades from all directions, but the leader restrains himself and begins to use his special power, which resembles lightning. With a single strike, he manages to injure two of them and knock them to the ground. He then raises his sword and charges into the air to attack them again. At that moment, one of the sentient sect members warns his comrades to retreat, as the one they are facing is Lihewan, the prince of the ninth dragon. But before he can prepare, Lihewan appears among them suddenly and moves with astonishing agility, attacking especially with an untraceable speed. When one of them tries to attack him, Lihewan is ready and blocks it with a single sword strike. However, the remaining sect members rush towards him from all directions, but Lihewan remains vigilant against any attacks. The enemies begin to assault him again, but Lihewan resists fiercely, his cloak becoming stained with their blood. At one point, two of them lead the charge as he did before, deflecting their strikes which hit both of them with powerful lightning as their bodies collide. At that moment, two more members of the Devil's sect appear and order the rest to step back, insisting that they will kill Lihewan themselves. Lihewan realizes that they are the twin brothers Jangana. One of them speaks to Lihewan, confirming that his knowledge of them means this will be his end. The other continues, saying that his death is imminent, and the twins attack Liheom at the same time. However, he manages to dodge their strikes by quickly retreating backward, then spins his sword powerfully towards both of them, his strikes backed by the lightning he possesses. He remembers the injuries both brothers sustained in their farming, which fuels their rage and drives them to attack him with their larger noses, determined to kill him this time. As a result, Lihewan remains prepared and engages them in a fierce battle, ending with both brothers receiving serious wounds. Amid the battle, he discovers that he has a wound on his shoulder, yet he assures himself that despite his injury, he has succeeded in killing them, and prevented them from achieving their goal. Suddenly Lei Huan hears a strong voice breaking the silence, telling him that it is impossible for him to be just an ordinary child, as a small boy like him cannot use lightning energy with such prowess. At that moment, the mysterious person freezes Lei Huan with immense power, violently pushing him back a great distance. However, Lei Huan defends himself using a sword that blocks the deadly energy. Lei Huan looks towards the person who attacked him to discover that Hans Cinema, one of the masters of the demon sect, appears. Lei Huan is shocked to find that Hans Cinema, the celestial demon from the chaotic realm and one of the 4 great leaders of the sect, stands before him. At that moment, Lei Huan realizes that this may be his end. Lei Huan speaks to Hans Cinema, admitting he knows his death is imminent, but asks him to answer one question before killing him. Hans sarcastically remarks that even those who are about to die can't stop being annoying. Nevertheless, Lei Huan cunningly responds, questioning why he refuses to fulfill a simple request from the person who wronged him. Hans Cinema thinks about Lei Huan's cunning and attempt to deceive him, and finally decides to comply, telling him he will answer only one question. Hans leverages this to ask how the demon sect learned about their journey's funds. Hans Cinema responds that the Pak Leho sect reported the method to them. He continues his statement, clarifying that he does not know exactly who leaked the information. Lei Huan's suspicions are confirmed after hearing the answer. He stands up, raising his sword, then tells Hans that in return for this answer, he will show him a mixed combat style he will never forget. Hans Cinema admires Lei Huan's persistence and combat skills, noting that he was unaware of such a capable boy among their competitors, and adds that if he had known about his talent earlier, he would have tried to recruit him into the demon sect. Lei Huan rejects the idea sarcastically, saying he is not crazy enough to join the sect, then asks what reason might drive him to consider such an option. Suddenly, intense flames surround Hans Cinema as he speaks with a mighty voice that joining the sect was not his choice. He adds that at the time, he hesitated to see everything. Despite the clear denial, Lei Huan does not give up, attempting to attack Hans Cinema, but the latter responds quickly and begins attacking simultaneously. Due to Hans's immense power, Lei Huan takes a strong blow that pushes him far, causing him to fall to the ground. A flame from Hans Cinema lands on Lei Huan, and he falls unconscious with his sword lying next to him. It is clear that Lei Huan suffered a severe injury, but at the same time managed to wound the celestial demon. Hans Cinema stands before him, astounded, disbelieving that a small child claimed he could injure him with a single blow. Lacking consciousness and his sword lying beside him, it is clear that Li has suffered a severe injury, but at the same time managed to wound the celestial devil. Hans Cinema stands before him, expressing disbelief that a small child could strike him. Hans adds that he has now wished to possess Lei Huan's body, explaining that he wants this body to belong to him. Using his devilish powers, Hans lifts Huan into the air, then carries him on his shoulder, and before leaving the place, he orders his men who were fighting the Ihuan to search for Baek Li and eliminate him. Afterwards, he takes off into the sky carrying Li Huan with him. We move to a new scene where a line of cowards appears in the Tungkai district, lasting 5 days for the confrontation between Lei Huan and Hans Cinema. In one of the deep caves among the mountains, Lei Huan clings to the ground, losing strength, with no one standing beside him except Hans Cinema. A middle-aged man enters the cave with curiosity upon seeing Lei Huan and asks Hans about his identity and the reason for bringing him to this place. From the dialogue, we know that this man is the leader of the satanic sect and one of the 4 lords of the sect. Hans Cinema asks the leader to perform the Irian ritual, which is a dark technique used to transfer a person's soul into another body, one of the arts mastered by the satanic sect. But the leader objected, describing the request as silly. Harvest responds by reminding him that he had told him before that his body would not last more than 2 or 3 years at best. Hans Sura continues that the injury he received to his heart by Lei Huan's hands is healing, and he might not even survive another year. The leader gets angry at hearing these words, but Harvest, as usual, arrogantly states his belief that Lei Huan's body may be suitable to contain his soul. He clearly asks the leader whether he will transfer his soul or not. The leader finally agrees that if Hans is in such critical condition, they must try the ritual. Afterwards, moving to the next day where the leader is preparing everything necessary to perform the Irian ritual to transfer Hans's soul. Subscribe to the channel. The leader, along with the celestial demon Hashan and Wolehwana, prepares for the commencement of the rituals. Finally, after 3 days have passed, it is the day of the arrow from the Fista Street. We move to a new scene where the sky is clear and the view is beautiful. Lehuan opens his eyes after the soul transfer procedure performed at the Zabal, but he is surprised that he has been transformed and has returned to the form of a small child. He feels confused and wonders how he arrived at this place and why his age has decreased, believing that he might be living in Hanim. It seems that the family members are awake, as all the windows are lit. Inside, the man sits to stir his drink and talks with his guest, who seems strange in the place. The man asks his guest about his condition, to which he replies, his spirit has changed. The guest inquires about why the man's psychological state is in this condition, and why he does not return to face life and stand on his feet again. The homeowner thanks the guest for his advice, confirming that he fully knows his responsibilities cannot be avoided. Then the guest asks the man why he did not consider Lehuan in his decisions. The man enthusiastically responds unexpectedly, suggesting that the guest take Lehuan with him. The guest is surprised by this suggestion, and the man starts to complain, saying that Lehuan always gives him headaches. The guest asks his intention, to which the homeowner replies that Lehuan does not go a day without causing some new problem, and he cannot predict who will be the victim of his next adventures. The homeowner continues to complain, claiming that Lehuan's actions have led to the loss of his hair. The guest laughs, saying that Lehuan seems to resemble Wida in his youth. The father strongly denies this possibility, insisting that he was never annoying like his son. At that moment, a person rushes in, telling the father that little mister has climbed the high ginkgo tree again. It becomes clear here that the homeowner is Dewana's father. The father stands up angrily, threatening to punish Lehuan, and rushes out while the guest follows him, watching the situation outside. We see the towering ginkgo tree, and at its top, a small child climbing it is Lehuan, while his father stands under the tree, calling him to come down immediately. But Lehuan refuses, affirming that the lightning is about to strike and he must wait for it. His angry father shouts that the lightning is the reason he demands Lehuan to come down. Lehuan stubbornly replies, informing him that he had been told before that he must withstand the lightning strike to become a master of the Spirit Thunder Sword technique. He stands at the highest point of the tree, raising his sword in anticipation of the lightning. His father tries to convince him that everything he was saying is mere nonsense and that he must come down. During this dialogue, the guest observes the situation, engrossed in thought. He speaks to himself, remembering that the Spirit Sword technique was once one of the greatest techniques of his era, making him the best swordmaster in the world, as was the region. Subscribe to the channel. The guest continues his contemplation, pointing out that none of Lehuan's family members had been able to master this technique since long ago, leading to its forgetting among martial arts practitioners in recent years. He adds that the loss of this technique was the main reason behind the tarnished status of both the Lehuana and Dewana families. The guest continues thinking, stating that the existence of a small child climbing the giant ginkgo tree threatens the possibility of reviving the Spirit Thunder Sword technique, which is not a simple matter. He wonders to himself whether this is just childish recklessness or if there is a deeper meaning behind it. At that moment, the sky fills with the sound of thunder, and heavy rains begin to pour. The lightning strikes atop the tree, and Lehuan continues with his determination, insisting with his tool. An attempt to persuade him to descend quickly to avoid injury, but Lehuan asks his father to wait a moment, confirming that all he needs is a single lightning strike in this refuge. Lehuan does not know that the guest is his father's friend who hastily climbed the mountain to save him, and at the last moment, before the rope arrives, the light vanishes. Subscribe to the channel. Upon their arrival on the ground, Lehuan's father sees them heading towards his building and calls out to him worriedly while the servants follow. However, Leho does not respond to any of them, but turns to the guest he had let in, questioning his identity. The guest simply replies that he is an old friend of his father. Lehuan's father, angry, asks Abdu who he was thinking of to take such a reckless action, saddened that the lightning could have really struck him, but Lehuan ignores his father's words. Subscribe to the channel. The guest asks what Lehuana needs, and Lehuan shouts angrily, saying that the guest has prevented him from gaining the power of wisdom, and adds that the laws of martial arts state that whoever causes harm to others must compensate them. The two guests wonder if Li Wan meant to demand compensation, because he was denied the opportunity to possess the power of wisdom. Li Wan responds slyly, saying in a low voice that he is thinking the guest will, and then laughs, saying he will return to Li Wan by making him God's disciple. But Li Wan refuses and declares that he will never accept being a disciple of an ordinary person, unless that person is one of the greatest sixth swordsmen in the world. Li Wan's father intervenes, telling the guest to take his son with him, and then turns to Li Wan, explaining that this man is Baek Lea. However, Li Wan does not know who Baek Lea is. His father will declare that this man is under the alliance of Hulin the warrior, known as the Emperor of Martial Arts. Le Ho comments surprised, saying that his father had previously told him that Baek Lea was an arrogant, conservative, resentful, and ferocious person, but after Baek Lea ordered him, Li Wan adds that the man standing before him appears so, and is even very handsome. He sighs and asks Li Wan about the other problematic things his father said about him in his absence. What does Li Wan's father have to do? He laughs shyly, saying he might have only said a few minor things. Then Li Wan directs himself to Baek Lea in an unbothered tone, saying that it is not his fault but Baek's himself because he hasn't visited them even once in the past 10 years. He adds that he saved Baek Lea's life in the past, and Baek Jubair admits that he feels guilty for delaying his visit. He holds Li Wan's father's hand and seriously asks if Baek Lea will take Li Wan with him. Baek Lea replies that he certainly will not be like him, and adds that he is not the type to recognize his responsibilities. At that moment, Li Wan's father curiously asks, "What did you do to make you think so?" Baek Lea responds quietly and sadly, saying he heard himself say before that he would live in peace and be happy when Yun took him, clarifying the distress on Li Wan's father, but he does not respond.